Hello everybody and welcome to Greg's Vintage Workshop, where I'm working to restore history one piece at a time. Today we're going to be on part 4 of the Philco 1950 T1401 television set. In part 4 I'm going to get the high voltage box all finished up. We'll get the tubes populated and we're going to put some power to this thing and see what it's going to do. It's either going to light some tube filaments, or we're going to go up in smoke, or it's going to do nothing, or it might get us a picture on the tube. Not a picture on the tube, but some snow. Snow on the tube would be a success in my opinion. But we're going to see what we can get. So without further delay, let's get started. Okay, I finally got some of the stuff that we had ordered. I can now replace this super brittle and hard 20,000 kilovolt picture tube cable. I've got some extra here. I'm going to make it longer to start with, just so I can keep the chassis outside of the cabinet but still plug it in. I also made an extension cable to be able to connect the deflection and focus coils to the chassis with the picture tube still being in the cabinet. And I'll show you that here in a little bit. I also got my Corona dope in so I can paint my high voltage flyback. And while I was waiting for this stuff to come in, I created some knobs for this thing. Let me show you those. Okay, so here is the knobs. I'll come down here and we'll zoom in a little bit. This is the original on-off volume knob. This did come with it. This knob came with it. This knob came, you're not seeing because I'm zoomed in. What I was missing was the back knob. This is all one piece. This and this is all one piece. This is two. So what I had to design and print was this part. And as you can see, it looks pretty close. As far as the notches, the size, all of it. I had originally printed in brown, but that brown not near the right color, and I know I can paint this, but I decided to go ahead and make it black. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to mask this off and I'm going to paint this black. So basically it's going to be two tones. It's going to be black with the brown, black with brown, and then the same on the other two knobs over here for the contrast and brightness. This being the brightness knob, this being the contrast knob. And then all I had of the channel selector knob was the fine tuning knob. And so using a photo that I found online, which was a pretty bad photo, I recreated the channel knob. And I printed it out in two-tone, and I did black because the one that I found online, the picture, the channel knob was black. So I decided, since the channel knob was already black, it would make sense to go ahead and just do black, the brown, and then that with the knobs. So one issue I do have is this shaft is bent, dramatically bent. I think somebody dropped this at some point in time and it must have hit the shaft. And although the channel knob rotates fine, it's bent. So I'm not sure yet what I'm going to do with that. But anyway, that's what I've been working on. And now what I'm getting ready to do is go ahead and get this flyback situated. I'm going to Corona dope all this flyback and put the new high tension lead in there. So I'll bring you back when that's all done. And once that's all done, I'll be about ready to fire this up. Here is the extension cable I made to connect the focus and deflection coils to the chassis. Made it the same way I made the repair earlier, only I printed out this holder for the socket. I ordered that socket, I made a holder, and we've got a nice extension cable. So with this extension cable and this extended high voltage wire, we should be able to try and fire up without having to have the chassis inside. Okay guys, so it's come to the time that I'm about ready to put some power to this old set and see if it's going to come to life at all. So what you see here is I've moved it closer to the actual cabinet, not inside the cabinet, so I can see things better. But I had made the extension cable, and that's working perfect. But the actual limiting factor that's preventing me from moving this further away from it was actually the harness for the CRT. And I had to move it in and jack it up in order to be able to plug that in. So this is what I came up with. It's still better though, because I can stand out here and see everything, look everything over. Also it's jacked up, I can see up underneath there if I need to, in case smoke starts coming out of something. But we got the picture tube plugged in from the high voltage. There's normally a strap that goes from here over to the high voltage. I went ahead and just ran a jumper to the chassis. I don't know how important that is at this point in time, but it is what it is. And then I also have it all set up, hooked up to the MFP, and I got a meter here to monitor the DC voltage on the C1 capacitor. So I think we're ready to do an initial power up on the tubes only. I don't have the 5U4 rectifier tube installed currently, so we're not going to get full power to anything, but we can at least check the tube filaments and see what the tube filaments are doing. So I guess we'll go ahead and see what we can do here. I can worry about obviously looking at the meter to start with, because with just the tube filaments not much going to be going on there. But let's go ahead and flip on the multifunction panel. And the switch on this set is on. We're at 118 volts right at the moment. Let's turn that down a little bit. 117 volts. Let's kill this light. Therefore you guys can see things a little bit better. I think you can see that. Let me zoom in a little bit. So I'll flip a switch down here to put it on AC. It may pop the electronic circuit breaker if it draws too much current, and I may have to give it a little more ability down here on the amp adjustment down here. But let's go ahead and flip it on and see what happens. Yeah, it tripped it, but it came back. Okay. It's pulling about 920 milliamps, dropping. I do see some filament glowage down to 900 milliamps. I'm going to kill all the lights so that you guys can see the filament glowing better. Alright, let's see me over here. Let me take you off the tripod here. Alright, I don't know how well you're seeing everything, but as I move around here, that's the CRT there. Looks like I see glow in pretty much all of the tubes. A couple of them are way faint, but that might just be the setup of the tube. So this is in the high voltage box right there. Alright. Don't see any smoke. We're just going to sit there and let that cook for a minute. I'm going to get one of the lights again. Okay, so the light's back on, obviously, you can see, and I'm just kind of looking, smelling. I don't see anything, I don't smell anything. So at least in that circuitry I don't have any dead shorts. Okay, so I'm going to shut the power off. Let's go back over to the MFP here. Alright, I'm going to kill the power on it and put the 5U4 in the rectifier tube, and then we'll start bringing it up very slowly. We'll cut the power down here so we can bring it up very slowly. Okay, we got the 5U4 here, and we put that in. Okay, so we got that put in. Switches on the TV is still on. So let's go ahead and flip this on. Let's go ahead and turn this on. To DC volts. Need to go ahead and turn that up a little bit more for amps. And let's go ahead and put them a little voltage and see, hope nothing pops on this thing. Alright, so there's 40 volts. We got DC voltage climbing. We'll let it climb till it levels out, and then we'll give it a little bit more. Well, everything's got all new capacitors in this thing. Okay, so it's leveled off. It's dropping off a little bit. Let's turn it up a little bit more. There's 51 volts. I don't smell anything or hear anything. I do see a faint glow in the filaments, in some of the tubes anyway. The rectifier tube doesn't seem like it's getting any filament glowage. Let's go ahead and turn the voltage up a little bit more. Go 60. Transformer's cold. Up to 75 volts, 76 volts DC. Let's give it a little bit more power. Looks like we're drawing 380 milliamps. Let's turn it up. There's 70 volts. Up to 155 volts DC. Rectifier tube is now heating up quite well, actually. I don't see any glowage in it, but it's heating up. And with the DC voltage coming up, I think it's doing okay. I'm seeing glowage on the tubes. Still no smoke or smell, so that's good. Go ahead and crank it up a little bit more. There's 80 volts to 218 on the meter. 90 volts. I think at 90 volts we should pull 1100 milliamps. Don't hear anything out of the speaker. I'll go up to 100 volts. Since it's not popping the circuit breaker and since nothing's smoking or frying at this point. And there's 100 volts, 1400 milliamps, got 300 volts DC. You guys can see this a little bit better. Looks like I'm about to lose my battery here. Got a little warning on it, but hopefully we can try a little trick here, see if I get any high voltage at all. It doesn't look like we got anything. I'll kill my lights. No, I don't think we got any high voltage here. Because I've got nothing on this neon tube. Well, this fluorescent tube, it's not a neon tube, but a fluorescent tube. I've seen Bob Anderson hold these by his flyback and get it to light, and that's not doing anything. I do have good glowage on all my tubes. Okay guys, sorry about that, but my battery for my video recorder died during that power-up sequence. I will tell you what happened though, before I realized it had gone on. I had taken my fluorescent tube and held over the high voltage, and I got nothing. There was nothing even hinting to light it up, so there's no voltage coming out of the high voltage. I went ahead and turned the voltage on the MFP up a little further, as far as 107. At 107 it kept tripping the breaker, and when it would trip the breaker, the 5U4, which is no longer in the set right here, would arc, blue arcing in there for about a second, and then it would trip the breaker. And I tried setting the breaker up a little higher to still trip it. So there was definitely a short going on, probably maybe in that tube, I don't know. But anyway, so what I've been doing since that time is I got me the resistance chart, and I've been checking resistances for those circuits, and I found a couple of things that are not right. Now, when I say not right, I'm talking pretty big deals, like on this 6V6GT tube, from pin 3 to pin 8 of the rectifier tube, it was infinite. It was supposed to be 975 ohms. It's open. It's just an open circuit. Same over here, pin 8. The pin 8 to the rectifier is testing open circuit. So there's a couple things like that. Down here at the rectifier, this one, pin 7 to pin 8, it's supposed to be 4.7K, it's infinite. Got a feeling I've got a resistor down there that's probably open. We probably got some open resistors. And like I said, I didn't necessarily check all of the resistors, I just checked the ones that were in the vicinity of where I was at. So now that I've got these numbers, I'm going to go back and check these specific resistors. And we'll see what we get. By the way, while we got the chassis back flipped up, I wanted to show you guys this. I caught this when I was double checking my work earlier in the videos. I had caught that I had not used a Y safety cap here and here, which are the line to ground safety caps or filter caps. And so when I seen that, I went ahead and I changed them out, so those are correct now as far as safety caps. Now I know it's not that big of a deal. In my mind, it's not that big of a deal because they didn't have such thing as really as safety caps back then when this stuff was built. And you guys watched me before. You've seen me build radios. If I don't have the right value, I'll go ahead and just use a normal cap. In this case, I had the right values. I just didn't pay attention. So I hear my grandson stomping around upstairs. Okay everybody, so I've been doing some testing on this chassis, mainly resistance checks. On the high voltage side, I'm not getting any real smoking guns. However, the audio output transformer is open on the primary side. so that's why I have no sound, and it could be playing a role into the high voltage side. I'm going to order me a 500 ohm. This has got a 435 ohm primary on it. I'm going to get me a 500 ohm 100 watt, which is overkill for wattage, but that's what I found online. Power resistor and bypass the primary. I'm going to get another 5U4 rectifier tube and a 1B3 high voltage tube. I don't believe the high voltage tube I could test on my testers when I tested the tubes. I checked the filament and it seemed fine, but I know that there's obviously an issue with that 5U4 because it had the blue lightning going on. Unfortunately, I flipped all this up, started checking it versus showing you guys the lightning, which would have been cool, but I didn't do it. So I think this is probably a good place for me to end this video, and once I get my tubes and my resistor, we'll do another power up and see what we get. So okay, so I got the flyback all coated really well with Corona dope, and it's all set up. I've got my new 20 kilovolt wire for the picture tube all attached and Corona dope down here, and I'm getting ready to put an end on it, and we're going to set the cabinet over on my other bench over here, and then hopefully I can have a long enough lead here that I can get on the picture tube with it, and we'll go from there. So let me go ahead and get the rest of the high voltage box back together again on it, and I'll come back. I think I'll end this one. So from Greg at Greg's Vintage Workshop, thanks for watching.